Back into the Rover and Dave podcast. It is Friday, and this is going to be our last podcast of the weekend. And it's college football day tomorrow, college football even tonight. What an atrocious game last night. I ended up going to bed early. I guess UCLA finished off the job against Stanford and David Shaw. Stanford just is a terrible, terrible football team this year. I mean, what's wrong with Stanford?
I mean, if you watch that game, I can't even get mad at David Shaw or anything like that. They obviously just don't. If you know anything about the backstory, they were on their third string quarterback. Guy just looked like he just was not comfortable of being out there. If lack of a better word, guy was holding onto the ball all night. There was zero chance of Stanford ever winning this game. They were sacking him left and right, and a lot of the sacks for UCLA were just because the guy refused to throw the ball. They obviously just don't have third-string quarterback depth. I guess that's not common in many places. It really was what it was. I mean, I thought Stanford did as good a job on defense as they could have, just kind of trying to hang in there. They're being put in poor situations all night. I don't think that DTR from UCLA looked absolutely great, but he wasn't terrible either. They were able to score eventually, some points. I mean, I think Stanford just, you're starting to see that lack of talent starting to come in. I don't know.
Yeah, that's enough. Sorry, I set you
around.
up with a game that that again, it wasn't that interesting of an opening topic, but I'm just going.
I mean, it was a game that was never going to be won by Stanford with a third-string quarterback going versus a first-string quarterback in the Pac-12, and the fact that Stanford doesn't have a real running game like they used to, and they only have 5 scholarship offensive linemen that are healthy as of. They're just maybe the most banged-up team in all of the whole Power 5.
Yeah, let's get into kind of a playoff back and forth. If we could predict at the center point of the season, the college football playoff, how do you think that the playoff is going to end up, and what teams are going to be just out of the college football playoff?
Okay, if you ask me, this is going to be the playoff, and this could change at any moment, but the way I see it today, okay? I see Alabama getting through the gauntlet of the SEC. I don't see Clemson in any way, if they go undefeated, not getting in, even though there's some talk of that. I see, I see Ohio State running through the Big Ten. And then the most interesting case that is going to be going back and forth here, LSU goes 10-1. Their 1 losses to Bama. If it's a close game, that one I can't predict, or a potentially undefeated Oklahoma. That right there is kind of the toss-up the way I see it. My personal opinion, if LSU has a close game, this college football playoff committee, remember these AP polls and all that stuff, you can throw them out the window. All they care about is picking the 4 best teams. That's what they emphasize every year. If it's a 1-loss LSU team and it's a close game to Alabama, they will get in over Oklahoma. Point blank, period.
Really?
Because I really believe that some of the things you listen to, when you listen to this college football committee, they don't care about appeasing the fans of an undefeated team if they don't deem you worthy. And all they care about is getting the 4 best teams into the playoff. That's what they say every year, right? That's all they care about. I don't think – I could be wrong. If it's a close LSU game, they will get in. It's 1 loss. There's no way that they don't get in. I can promise you, because they have looked like the second or third best team in college football.
This is the toughest. This is the toughest. Now, what happens if Alabama loses to Georgia in the championship, like a 2-loss Georgia?
Well, then what's it called? Then the SEC is only going to get 1 team.
Alabama.
It would probably be Alabama at that point. But the way I see it, if that was the scenario, And this is where it's going to be hard to predict because we have not seen that LSU-Alabama game yet and what the final score is. You know, if it's a real close game, tight, they're going to get an edge over Oklahoma.
Well, now here's the thing. I believe if Clemson and Oklahoma played on a neutral field, that Clemson would beat Oklahoma pretty badly because of the talent on the defensive side and Brent Venables. But Oklahoma has a much better resume than Clemson. The ACC sucks. Clemson beat North Carolina by 1 point. And if Oklahoma beats teams by 14 or more points, I mean, doesn't Oklahoma deserve it over Clemson if they're both undefeated?
I couldn't agree more. I just don't live in a world where I think that Clemson can go undefeated. And just it's kind of going, let's put it this way. I'm contradicting myself, and I get that, okay? I just don't see a world where Clemson can go undefeated. And they have proven what they have proven over the last few years, right? And that's going to take a lot into it. And a lot of it also is going to be people still believe, no matter what we think of opinions on how they look, that Trevor Lawrence is the best player in college football. There's, NFL scouts will tell you he's the best player.
Yeah.
I think that gets taken into an account there, too,
Right.
It's kind of like you have the best player, you're the national champions, and, you still went undefeated in a bad conference, which no one can defend either way, but you still got the best player in college football. We're going to put you in.
And the defending champions. If I was in the committee, it's really tough because I think Joe Burrow is having an unbelievable year. I look at LSU's defense, and it's going to come down to the way that they can defend Alabama, and then Oklahoma. I think it's all gonna kind of each and every year we think it's going to be the most complicated decision, but it always kind of makes itself out for the committee. It all kind of reveals itself, and there's a chance that Baylor will beat Oklahoma or will almost beat Oklahoma, and then OU still has the title game again in Dallas. So Oklahoma is probably going to slip up along the road. I really think that that's what's going to happen, and then LSU will get in pretty easily. In fact, LSU is going to have an easier course because if you lose that game to Alabama, actually, it might even be the best thing for LSU because then you don't even go to the SEC championship. I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but this LSU team with Joe Burrow, who's going to be the Heisman Trophy winner maybe, or he's going to go to New York, it's going to be very tough. Oklahoma, 1,000,000% has to go undefeated. I think Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, and Clemson, that's probably what's going to end up happening. And and Oklahoma's probably going to be out of it.
Yeah, I agree. There is no scenario. There's zero scenario where Oklahoma doesn't go undefeated and they go through. They will kind of go to what I've been saying all year about Oregon. Oregon can look as good as they want from here till eternity. It's just not going to be good enough, I mean, each week they look better and better and better. At this point, it really doesn't matter. You would need hell to freeze over and back, basically, for them to be considered one of the four best teams.
This eight-team playoff would be spectacular this year.
I agree.
Because don't you think Oregon can win a game? Even again, if Oregon squared up with LSU, Oregon's defense is it's one of the best defenses I've seen. I think it's so underrated. And if they go out to Washington and kick Washington's ass, what a game that would be in the playoff, like Oregon versus Alabama or something.
Oh, I just don't disagree. It's not the format we have. I always hear every year, well, you know who the two best teams will end up being. And a lot of years that's true, and maybe even this year it's probably still true. But the 4-5 matchup would always be intriguing, and the 6 versus 3 matchup would probably be a very intriguing matchup in a lot of ways, So, I'd love to see, Oklahoma, versus Clemson in a 6-3 or, Oregon versus Clemson, just something would be really great, And then it would take a lot of pressure off of the committee, because then you could basically let all the conference champions in unless there was a conference champion that really just didn't deserve it. It would take a lot of pressure off of it. And I don't think people would be as up in arms over the number 9 and 10 teams, even though you always have controversy. I don't think that the controversy would stem as hard.
Would you like to see them play it at the colleges for the first round?
If it went to 8 teams?
Yeah, in the 8-team playoff.
No, even then, I don't think I would. The thing about playoffs, kind of goes to the NCAA tournament, things like that. You send any team to Alabama, you can pack their bags before they go, if that makes sense. They don't have to show up, basically. I mean, I don't think that's fair. I know life isn't fair, but you can find a neutral field anywhere. You make a spectacle. I mean, it would be great, but at the same time, no. I think neutral field is the best way to go in these types of matchups.
Spectacle it up. You're there for the spectacle.
I don't need Oregon going into Alabama and having zero chance because they're going into Bryant-Denny Stadium. And
yeah, but in a way, like, you wish that you could reward the 1 seed for getting in. Now, maybe you could give them a bye, but you should reward the 1 seed in some way.
I'm not disagreeing totally. It's my opinion.
Yeah. We're just kind of figuring this out. What I think would be awesome, the most entertaining style, would be if Alabama had to choose the team that they select out of the 4.
Yeah, that'd be interesting too.
All right, let's go with the biggest surprise of the college football. I'm just going to go first with my biggest surprises. Or would you want to lead off with the biggest surprises of the college football?
No, you give me your biggest surprise.
Well, the biggest surprise is plural. I think that Ole Miss has actually really surprised me, just in terms of their defense being really good immediately, under Mike McIntyre. I think that they're going to beat Texas A&M outright. So that has really surprised me. Maybe Mississippi State being terrible. I think that surprised me, that Joe Moorhead is going to go to Rutgers. I think that that's surprising.
Okay.
Let's see what else. LSU's offense, amazing. That's a huge surprise. South Carolina with Helinski, I think Will Muschamp actually being a good coach is a big time surprise. And then USC, I think Clay Helton's going to keep his job. I think that this Slavis kid is the best quarterback that USC has ever had in the history of their program. So there you go. That's kind of a hot take, but I think Slavis will be better than Carson Palmer, better than Matt Leinart. He'll be a better NFL player than Matt Leinart. He won't be better in college. So USC's kind of been really surprising. I don't know. I probably mentioned some of your picks for surprising. LSU has been the shining star of the college football season for sure. And I'm sorry, I'm taking up probably all your thunder, but let's go with some hot takes. What have been your surprises of college football?
Oh, I would say the surprise is easily LSU. I mean, just their total transformation from archaic offense into pretty much the best offense in college football. Another real surprise for me is how good Ohio State has actually looked once Urban Meyer left. I mean,
that's a great one.
Yeah, they've been really talented, but this team has seemed to take a major step forward in, a lot of senses. I mean, they're not just beating teams; they're beating the brakes off of teams, and they look like an unstoppable machine, and in many, many ways. Another surprise for me, we're going to stay kind of at the top for right now, would be Clemson. I mean, they have not looked very good. They have basically played 2 very good games where still not against great competition. They had the close game against North Carolina. They've kind of, they're sleepwalking through the season right now, and it's very, very interesting to see if they don't get, blindsided by one of these teams since they've been sleepwalking, kind of like they did against Pittsburgh those couple times.
I'm not really surprised because that's Clemson for you.
Yeah, you might be right. I'm a little bit surprised. Maybe I thought they would take that kind of that Alabama step in their program where they just kind of take care of everyone, no questions asked.
Guess what? They're still probably going to win the national championship. So maybe that's my own personal opinion.
Okay, another huge surprise. I think two big surprises. We're going to stay in the Big Ten here. It's definitely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a huge surprise in the sense of, they're kind of got an okay quarterback at best. The running game is absolutely dominant. We knew that was going to be the case, but usually Wisconsin will slip up somewhere. At this point, they would just be at best 5-1. I mean, they look utterly dominant, and the defense is just amazing there. They don't give up anything. To me, it's the only team that has a chance of competing with Ohio State in that Big Ten. I mean, they're vastly talented on the offensive line, the defense side of the ball. Everything is solid. In 2 weeks, it is going to be mayhem at high noon in Columbus. And we're going to get my last surprise. I'm going to play into your ears right here, Spencer. The Minnesota Gophers. They're undefeated at this point. They haven't looked great while doing it. I will be the first to say it. But PJ Fleck, it's kind of just rode the boat, lack of a better term, into a winner. At least this far, they have beaten the teams they're supposed to beat. They haven't dropped anything. And to me, that's really surprising. I mean, being 6-0 at this point.
Yeah, I love college sports because you can pick up a win, and when you're building a program, I think that's the most fun to follow a team. Like you look at Baylor and Matt Rule, and when they beat Texas Tech in overtime, like each result is just so paramount for the trajectory of a program. And Minnesota is that team where each result, they beat Fresno State on a 4th and 17 play to the back corner of the end zone where they need everything to go right. They easily could have lost to a Division, 1A team the first week, even the third week of the year. They needed a last-second drive, and now they're out here. They've definitely gotten some easier opponents, but when you're 6-0, it just changes the mental mindset of a 20-year-old kid. And that's my favorite part about college football. Another huge surprise, Nebraska. And I think that Scott Frost, really, a lot of these programs just need an elite quarterback. And I think Michigan also, you can lump into this mix, that Shea Patterson is not an elite quarterback. We now have evidence that he's a very mediocre quarterback. He was good maybe his freshman year before defenses could see him. But it's really Jim Harbaugh not recruiting like a top-level guy, I don't know, a guy with huge talent and potential. And actually Adrian Martinez, I think, has a lot of talent, but he doesn't have a lot of wide receivers. So it's always a mixture in college football. But I would say that Nebraska is actually really surprising how terrible their offenses look this year.
That's
a decent surprise. True or false? Joe Moorhead is the next Rutgers head coach.
False.
No?
I don't think so.
I think he's getting fired from Mississippi State, though. Don't you think he's not lasting this year there?
I mean, he may or may not. You got to remember these colleges don't like firing guys. I don't necessarily think that he's going to get fired at Mississippi State. I mean, just remember this. It's very easy to say fire a guy, all right? In college sports, it's the state's money, especially when you fire someone like that, all right? He's got a few years left on the contract. I don't know if they're actually they'll pull the plug and fire someone like that. I don't know if they can afford to.
Yeah.
Unless that they are assured that he's going to get another job right away.
Let's look at some of these games, man. Let's start picking some games. Let's do it.
Okay, you kick off.
I'll take off. I think that Texas Tech is going to win outright over Iowa State. I mean, Iowa State played well at West Virginia, but Iowa State this year has looked very, very shaky. They're an overrated team. Texas Tech is amazing, or Texas Tech is not amazing, but Matt Wells is absolutely incredible. I mean, to go to overtime in Waco, Texas, is a feat unlike any other. And the game is at Jones AT&T Stadium in Lubbock at noon. It's a great spot for the Red Raiders. They're getting 6 points. I think that that's as close to a lock as you can expect. They're actually now getting 7 points. I think that if Tyler Helinski doesn't break his knee in this game, I think South Carolina is going to beat Florida. Florida is dead tired. Florida looked absolutely terrible last week. If I'm telling you, if LSU could have scored 100 points, I mean, Florida could have guarded them 15 times. Florida's defense is absolutely awful. David, you still here?
Oh yeah. I mean,
you're still here. Still here, so I got 2 picks. I think Purdue might have a chance to beat Iowa, but 17.5 is ludicrous. Iowa can't score at all. Purdue actually had a good week last week. Let's go with some momentum. So those are the 12 o'clock games that I actually like. What?
I'll start making some picks here because we'll just go in.
Is there a little bit? Okay, go ahead.
First of all, the 12 o'clock games, look no further than Houston versus UConn. 22 points. Houston, that seems like a great line. UConn can't play dead most weeks. It seems like, you get into that thing of De'Aaron King left and all that. UConn's a low-talent team. They would have covered 22 only one time in Division 1A football this year. So I think that's way too many points. But I'm going to get to tonight. There's one game on the board I really, really like tonight. I think Pittsburgh -3.5 versus Syracuse is a great play. I know it's a little bit obscure. It's a tough road game in some senses. Syracuse has looked god-awful. They have no ability to protect their quarterback. And against the Pittsburgh defensive line that really gets after it, Pittsburgh's already beaten Central Florida this year. They play Penn State close. I think that's a really, really good play. And then one more for 12 o'clock that I really like. I would say take the 34 points in West Virginia against Oklahoma. That just seems like a ton of points when you start breaking down what really needs to all happen there for that all to go down. Oklahoma's defense has to be perfect. I would expect a little bit of a letdown after Texas. I'm not saying that they're going to lose the game by any means, but maybe a little bit of lack of concentration, and they can cover that 34. Spencer, give us your next 3.
Oh, I forgot the ultimate. This is the ultimate sucker, okay? This looks like a sucker number. I've already put down, for me, a substantial amount of dollars, which is like $10, okay, on this game. It's a 12 o'clock game. I mean, Chad Morris in Arkansas, they can't even beat a third-string quarterback at Kentucky. What makes you
third-string quarterback? They couldn't be a wide receiver.
They couldn't beat Lynn Bowden. Yes, a wide receiver. Now they have to face an angry and pissed off Auburn team that has 14 days to prepare. And Bo Nix, who looked terrible, he's going to light up Arkansas in that defense. I mean, 19.5. It's not even 3 touchdowns. It's on the road, but like, take Auburn to the bank. I think Auburn wins big, and then that goes with 330. I think LSU also pounds Mississippi State and Joe Moorhead. It's 18 points. I go LSU all day long in that spot. I'll give you a Friday pick for tonight. I'm going to go obscure a little bit. UNLV looked really good against Vanderbilt. I'll take 14.5, going to Fresno State. So those are 3 more picks for you.
Sounds good. I actually like UNLV pick. I think it's smart. They have played a little bit better. Here's a game at 3 o'clock. I happened to be watching them play last Friday night in New Mexico. I would say take Wyoming versus New Mexico this week, giving the 19.5 points. Wyoming likes to run the ball. They're going to run the ball all day long. I think New Mexico is going to struggle. Their quarterback at New Mexico literally cannot throw the ball. It's one of the hardest things to watch in the world. Wyoming has a stingy defense. Me personally, I just don't know how New Mexico scores enough points to even come close to covering that 19. I think this game could be in the about a 30-point margin. Another game that I really, really like at 3:30, it's Temple getting 7.5 versus SMU. SMU has been the darling early in the season. They can still win. Temple plays a real physical brand of football. They're going to ground and pound on you. It's not as aesthetically pleasing as watching an SMU game, but there's just something about that Temple team that it's just going to make it tough. SMU barely beat Tulsa the week before, 2 weeks ago. I see this as a real close game down to the wire. I'll take the 7 in the hook. And another game that I really, really like, it's, where is it? What's the exact line? Navy. Navy in the 14.5 for South Florida. South Florida, I thought that they played decent last week against BYU. They came away with a win. South Florida has really struggled historically over the last 3 years against teams that just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Navy's getting 14.5. I don't think South Florida is a physical team. I think they're going to struggle completely against this triple option. That's kind of where I am with it. They just do not stop the run in any way, shape, or form.
And those are good picks. You nailed South Florida over BYU last week with Mitt Romney's grandnephew playing.
There you go.
The Mormons, everybody's related.
You're right. It might be his grandson.
What happens in Stillwater, Oklahoma? What happens to dreams there in Stillwater, Oklahoma? Comes to die. Baylor, Waco, Texas. I just think that Baylor is going to lose to Oklahoma State. I like Oklahoma State getting 4 points. Overtime game against Baylor. A lot of strain on the tires. So I'm going with a little OK State. I like a lot of college games this week, man. I also like Missouri going to Vanderbilt. Light them up. 35-point win for Missouri. Missouri minus 21. So I'm taking some big numbers here. Missouri going to Vandy. I like Missouri. And then Mississippi. At home, you're getting 6 points against a terrible Texas A&M team that Alabama absolutely whipped. Texas A&M is tired. They're not motivated at all. Mississippi with a great second half comeback. I think that the Rebels here at home is the play +6.
Those are some decent picks. Another game that I really like here at 6 p.m. It's Arizona State. They're getting 13.5 points. I don't think that they're as good as Utah. Utah has come out and crushed the last few weeks that they've played. But that Arizona State team, is something about them. They play hard each week. The defense struggled a little bit against Washington State, but I think this game is kind of made more for the liking of Herm Edwards, where it's going to be a lot of ground and pound, play action from Utah State, similar to a what's it called? What's their team that they played early in the season? Michigan State.
Yeah,
it's going to be easier for them to defend. They're kind of built for this type of a matchup. I see this. 13.5 points. I see it being a little bit closer than that. So I'll take Arizona State getting the points. And also it's supposed to be pouring rain there, so the weather is going to definitely be a factor. Another game that, let's put it this way, another game that I do really, really like, I think Temple plus the 4 points against Memphis. It's just, Memphis has kind of been one of these teams that I'll call them a fake team. You know, they do good. You know, they'll blow out your worst teams in America. Memphis, there's no bigger guarantee that, you know, when they're like minus 21, minus 24 against a bad team, they'll come and blow the doors off that team, and they'll probably cover that game by 42. You know, But when they go against these tough teams, you know, Tulane is vastly improved. They might be, going back to the stories, they might be one of the best stories in all of college football when you really get down to it. You know, I think the 4 points, it's going to be a close game. I'll take the 4 and go from there. And my last pick that I'm going to get into for right this second, where was it? Oh, yeah, boom, right there. San Diego State. San Diego State -8 against San Jose State. I think it's a good play. Another one of these just real tough ground and pound teams. I think it's just a bad matchup for San Jose State in general.
Yeah.
San Jose State kind of throws the ball decently, but San Diego State plays great defense. Just, I don't know. I don't think it's a good matchup for them at all.
You got to go with the physical game. You know what line is hilarious to me? I just think that, like, I'd be nervous to lay this, but for the sake of our game, I actually think Tennessee. I think that's too many points. 34.5 points. I mean, this is the funniest number that I've ever seen. I mean, the fact that this used to be a CBS 3:30 game, and we could get into CBS's scheduling, how stupid they are. You know, with the scheduling last week, they didn't even have Florida LSU. But the fact is, like, this rivalry, it's really sad for Vols fans. Vols fans actually in the early 2000s and in the 90s with Phil Fulmer, they used to dominate Alabama, actually. They would beat Alabama every year, and now it's 34.5. It's crazy to me, this number. It's really high. It just speaks to what that game is now.
Yeah, it's a really high number. I wouldn't take it either way, but you're 100% right. It speaks to what it is. I mean, especially with this explosive Alabama offense. I mean, it's one of these things you're saying, if this quarterback doesn't get off to an okay start, I mean, Alabama could be at 35-0 before the end of the first half, you know? It's bizarre. I agree with the CBS thing, though. What you've got to remember, ESPN owns more rights than ever over the SEC because of the SEC network. So they probably get rights to certain games that they normally wouldn't in the past 10 years. It just kind of is what it is. And I'll give my last pick for the day. You know, you can't have a day when all 9 picks have gone wrong and I've lost all 9. What do I need? I need a nightcap.
Pac-12?
You need something at, like,
after dark.
12 o'clock. You need something after dark.
You got to keep that light flickering.
Yeah. I mean, the light, you know, it's got to flicker some. And the game I'm looking at, once again, you just talk about bad matchups. I think USC is just a terrible, terrible matchup for Arizona. Arizona looked awful last week against a more physical team in Washington. Khalil Tate is so up and down. It's not funny. I know USC has been a bad home favorite. They really just have. But I think it's just a bad matchup at 10 points for Arizona. It's a tough spot. And it's kind of where I would go with that one.
No, I absolutely love the pick, and USC they played really, really well last week, you know, at Notre Dame. So
I would agree with that.
No, I really do love the pick, and I'll tell you, we got to analyze this game, man, before we end the podcast. I mean, I just feel comfortable too. I think Penn State is going to end Jim Harbaugh, and I think James Franklin's going to run it up on Michigan at home.
Yeah, I mean that one I see Penn State winning that game. All right. And I can see Penn State covering. I don't know that I'm really that impressed with, you know, Penn State in a lot of senses. I think that they have taken a huge step back. Obviously, it's hard to replace McSorley. John Clifford last week to me was awful. I mean, he gets happy feet in the pocket. You know, I saw a lot of breakdowns in College Football Live. He misses receivers like with his head going down. He bails out plays too quickly for me. I see this as being a Penn State closer than you would think, but that being said, I don't see Penn State actually losing this game in Happy Valley.
Right. David, it's been a pleasure, man. We got through two great pods. I think that our picks, man, I mean, you're the king of the little guy, and I appreciate your research, and we'll see how we both fare this weekend, my friend.
No, you have a great weekend, man.
All right, take care.